Welcome back. What if the truth is you're never meant to fit in? And the very things you've been spending your life trying to fix are actually the reason you're here. I used to feel like one of those square pegs trying to fit into a round hole. And I feel like I didn't fit in. And part of me really wanted to be a part of everything. It took a lot of years till I figured out, oh, thank God I don't fit in. Because maybe the fact that I see things different, that I am different, maybe that's my superpower. So what about you? What if the things you've hated the most about yourself are actually the things this world needs the most? What if your greatest gift has been hiding inside the part of you you've been trying years to change? Because if you're anything like me, you probably spent your whole life feeling like you're too different, maybe too emotional, too quiet, too loud, too ambitious, too weird, too much, or somehow just not enough. I have for most of my life. Like I said, I felt like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And no matter how hard I pushed, no matter how much I changed, I still felt different from everyone around me, like I didn't fit in. And for years, I thought there was something incredibly wrong with me. One of the things that really changed that was when I heard this quote: "You'll never get anywhere new by following the crowd." And that changed everything. Because maybe the goal was to never fit in. Maybe the goal was to become exactly who you were created to be. The truth is, normal people rarely change the world. Let's get honest, there is a pain of not belonging. Because something deep in humanity really wants to fit in, right? I believe that at one point we're tribal, right? You know, the interesting things about tribes, if you look into it, a lot of times the shaman, the healer, the one that really people went to in times of problems, was almost an outcast, lived on the fringes, didn't fit in. See, our brains are literally wired for belonging. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by a tribe meant death, or your group, or your clan, or whatever it looks like. So today, our nervous system still interprets rejection as danger, which explains, why we spend our lives editing ourselves, shrinking ourselves, hiding ourselves, trying desperately to become acceptable. We laugh at jokes that aren't funny. We stay quiet when we disagree. And we wear masks, pretending, performing. Because honestly, acceptance feels safer than authenticity. If you think about your internal dialogue, some of the things it may say is, maybe I should tone myself down. Maybe I am too much. Maybe people won't like me. Maybe I should just be more like everybody else. Yeah, I remember I think it was my late teens, early 20s. I really didn't like to go to parties because I just didn't feel comfortable in a crowd. And a friend of mine kind of dragged me out to one once. And everybody's upstairs, you know, laughing and chatting, and I'm just kind of milling around from group to group, but never really feeling like I have an opening to get a word in. And so I started fading back into the background to see if anybody would miss me. And finally, I took my case of beer downstairs to the family room and just sat there on the couch. Just hung out by myself because I didn't fit into the crowd. The tragedy is eventually you become good at pretending and you forget who you actually are. The truth is the mask that protects you eventually becomes the prison that confines you. Have you ever thought that it's the different thinkers that change the world? If you look at his history, every single breakthrough started with someone who didn't think like anyone else or like everyone else. Imagine if they tried to fit in. Imagine if they said, I don't want people judging me. We wouldn't have any innovation, discovery, progress, art, music, medicine, technology. Because every major invention started with an unpopular ideas. And they were all started by people called dreamers. Considered completely crazy until we realized they were right. Love this quote. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are often the ones who do. What if you don't think differently because you're broken? What if you think differently because you can see something others can't? And I honestly think this rings a bell for me. I think until I really realized this, it was really hard. Because I would look around at people getting so upset at these little things, and I'm wondering, like, why are they wasting their time on such trivial little things? Why is it so important to be right? I think I learned to reframe early. And when somebody was telling me about a problem, I would tell them to look at it from a different angle. And often it did help. And maybe that was like the genesis of my inner advocate before I even know what an inner advocate was. Difference isn't defective. Different is value. Maybe it's time to stop measuring yourself against someone else's map. One of the greatest mistakes we make is assuming there is one right way to live, one personality, one career, one definition of success, one timeline. But think about nature. No two trees grow the same. No two mountains look alike. No two fingerprints exist. Difference isn't the exception, it's the design. It's somehow humans believe we're supposed to be identical. Imagine that. When I was in school, we went to cadaver lab. We had the privilege of seeing a human body from the inside. And the instructor was pointing out this really interesting thing. And he said that almost every single body has an anomaly. So if you look at, like, one of the books we worked on in school was Netter, and it was kind of an illustration of the inner workings of the human body. And he said, the perfect human body doesn't exist. Everybody has anomalies. And if you start thinking about it, some of the anomalies are incredibly powerful. Usain Bolt had a scoliosis, which gave him a right leg length discrepancy, which gave him a faster push-off. What if he had tried to fit in? What if he'd learned that he had that problem and decided that he could never be an athlete because of it? Then the world's fastest man would have existed. I feel like Michael Phelps was double jointed. He had webbed fingers. He also had a scoliosis. It's different, right? But his differences propelled him to the top. Yet we still compare ourselves to others, and we allow social media to fuel it. In school, we're typically taught a way to conform. Like, we're not always based on our intellect, but how we can conform to the way they want things done. I remember that in school, you would just have to learn what was important to the instructor, like how they would pose the question and what was the important facts to them, and you could do incredibly well. So you weren't really based on your intellect or understanding of the material, but your understanding of what that instructor wanted you to regurgitate, which is an effective way of getting through school. But I don't know. Even work rewards compliance. But creativity, it requires individuality. Have you ever noticed that a company rarely promotes somebody from within into a CEO position? And they rarely hire people who are incredibly creative at the bottom, because at the bottom, they want them to conform and do the work and be good worker bees. They don't want them thinking outside the box. And they bring those people up to a certain height, but they never hired the creative person in the first place. So they look for their CEO from outside of the company. Comparison is conformity, wearing a different outfit. I remember, so I was in school for massage therapy, and it was the final term. And this whole time that I was going through this education, I was looking at the way other people did things and listening to what they said. This is the approach you should take. This, you should do this, you should do that. And this is how you should work, and da-da-da. And I was okay at what I was doing. I wasn't great. I was okay. But maybe I was even falling behind. And I remember it was the last term, and usually the top level students, they're completely booked for the whole term. And I went into my first clinic shift, and most people were fully booked, and I wasn't. And as I'm preparing, this thought came to me. Why am I trying to be like everybody else? I'm not them. I have a unique experience of life. I was older than most of them. I'd seen things differently than they. I hadn't gone to post-secondary school immediately after graduating. I was different. So why was I trying to be the same? So I decided, no matter what, I'm going to use the approach that comes from me that day. I feel like I had 3 or 4 patients, and each and every one of them were blown away by everything I did. And three of them broke down in tears. And there started a conversation around the school of my treatments. And the next time I went into clinic, I was completely booked with a massive weight lift because everybody wanted to understand what was I doing different. All I was being myself. But just how can you become truly original? So let's think of it like, first off, own your difference. O is for own your difference. Stop apologizing. Stop minimizing. Ask yourself, what makes me different? Write it down, not your weaknesses, your uniqueness. What makes me different than everyone else? R, reframe the story. Instead of saying, I am awkward, try saying something like, I'm thoughtful. Instead of saying, I'm too emotional. And I've said this to people. You feel deeply. You care deeply. It's amazing. Instead of I'm stubborn, maybe I am resilient. I'm tenacious. When I know where I'm going, I go there. Because language, it changes identity. I, invest in your gifts. Don't spend your whole life fixing weaknesses. What you focus on expands. If you keep on focusing on fixing what's wrong, you'll just see more of what's wrong. Spend more time strengthening gifts. Strengthen your strengths. Because what you focus on expands. And if you spend so much time on who you are, how it works, and how strong you are, and making those strengths stronger, what'll happen is you'll displace any mental energy you have for weaknesses. Because the world rewards excellent. It doesn't reward average. G, gather your people. Not everyone is your audience. Stop trying to convince everyone to understand you. Find your people. Your people, the ones who celebrate your uniqueness. I, ignore the crowd. Crowds rarely create. Crowds follow. Leaders always walk alone, out front, at first. And never dilute yourself. The world does not need another copy of everyone else. It needs the original you, who you were created to be. See, your authenticity is more powerful than your popularity. Here's something beautiful. The things you've been bullied for, and me too, may actually be the things people admire. The sensitivity, which becomes empathy if you allow it. The curiosity, which becomes innovation if you embrace it. The stubbornness, which becomes perseverance when you stand your ground. The imagination, which becomes creativity when you don't allow people to dim your flame. The relentless questioning, that's what becomes leadership. Everything changes when you stop asking, how do I fit in? And start asking, where do I belong? Because those are completely different questions. For a lot of years, well, I started writing and I got to about 90% of my first book and then I put it down. And then I started my second book and I got to 50 or 60% and I put it down. Then I spent a lifetime thinking the only way I'll ever get my message out there is in written form. And if I can't get it out there, I will never get it out there. And that sat for 10 plus years. Until I realized there's not one way of getting a message out. And the truth is, I was much better in conversation than I was in written form. And when I finally got over myself, I started this podcast. I really hope it touches people. And that's what I'm up to. Imagine what happens when you stop wasting energy pretending. Imagine taking that energy and redirecting it toward creating, towards loving, towards serving, towards building, towards becoming. See, the world is changed by originals, not by replicas. So I want to leave you with this today. Maybe you've spent years praying to become someone else. When the world has been waiting for you to become fully yourself. Your imperfections may actually be your signature. Your scars may become someone else's roadmap. Your perception, your perspective may solve a problem that no one has been able to solve. Stop seeing your differences as evidence you don't belong. Start seeing them as clues pointing towards your purpose. Because think about it. Every puzzle piece looks strange until you find where it belongs. The truth is, you were never designed to fit into every hole. You were designed to complete a picture that no one else could. So next time you feel different, don't shrink. Stand taller. Don't hide. Speak louder. Don't copy, create. Don't chase belonging. Become. You weren't born to fit into the world. You were born to leave your fingerprint on it. If today's episode resonated with you, I want you to do one thing today. Celebrate one thing that makes you different. Write it down. Keep it somewhere you see it. Own it. Protect it. Develop it. Because the very thing you spent years trying to hide may become the reason someone else's life changes forever. And that is my dream in this. Remember, be kind to yourself, believe in yourself, and most important, keep on becoming your own inner advocate. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.